Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Well, I think against all my hopes and dreams, I do not think the Atlanta Braves are going to beat the Phillies. The Phillies just simply have better offense, it seems to me. It breaks my heart, but, I can't ignore my brain. I gotta go with what I'm seeing, and it just, there's just way too much offensive production for the Phillies. But there's nothing I can do about that. But I don't have to like it, and I don't have to like Bryce Harper, and I really don't like Bryce Harper because he's arrogant. He's just simply arrogant, and I didn't even like it when he did this stuff in part of the Nationals organization. I saw him this past week. He does this. I've seen him do this a couple of times, where he'll run to first base, and as he steps on the bag, then he'll throw his arms out like he'd given the safe signal. And I'm like, that's not your job, dude. You're somewhat biased in that regard, okay? All right, let the umpire do his job. And then if, he does that thing and, the umpire calls him out, then he will start arguing with you. And that's the kind of thing I don't like about Bryce Harper. He's too arrogant. He thinks he's a big deal. And it's like, he is a good player. You are a good player, Bryce Harper. But you're too big for your britches. That's all there is to it. And I don't have to like it. I don't have to like you. And in reality, you really should be more concerned with things like the Diamondbacks, the Arizona Diamondbacks, because wow, they're doing really good. You should probably worry about the Astros as well, maybe. But, you have bigger priorities. So, get out of your own head, quit kissing your own ass. I do not like Bryce Harper. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. You can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Shock Monkey Radio, all one word, on Patreon. And become a patron today. I would appreciate that. You can follow me on social media. You can read those over there, I'm sure. You can read, right? I hope so. Yeah, and I also have a cash tag. It's not on the screen right now, but it's not important. It'll probably come up later when EK's done doing it. Yeah, he's nodding yes. So the cash tag is Shock Monkey Radio, all one word. I'd appreciate that. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. Took us a little while to get started. We're still breaking in this new software. And it's okay. It's all right. It's working. It works pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. EK's excited. He loves any time there's new features and stuff like that. Ooh, new boxes and things, sliders to slide around. He loves that kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah. So my sister's on a cruise, and so I've been watching her dog this week, and it's a little tiny rat dog. It's like half rat, half dog. One of those little tiny rat dogs. And the simple logistics of it is simple. It's cheaper to feed. They're cheaper to feed. They have smaller poos and so forth. But when she's at my sister's place, there's always people coming and going and so forth. And so there's, the poor dog, Shelly is her name. The poor dog is almost never alone and almost never in her crate. But if you leave her alone, she may tear stuff up. She's been known to do it. So out of frustration. So now she's with me, who's all by himself. And so, now, it was okay when I had her on the weekend because, I was around. I was, I didn't leave for too long or anything like that. And so it was no problem. But now it's the middle of the week, and I've had to, shove her in the crate for 8 hours, while I work, and I have to shove her in the crate 8 hours for when I'm sleeping, because she will poo in the house. She will do it. And so now it's almost because dogs don't understand why. They don't understand where you go. It's like, where are you going? It's like, I go to work. Dogs don't understand that. So in this poor little dog's mind, in her mind, she's like, I must have done something bad. Why am I in trouble? It's because it's so pitiful. I'm not made of pig iron, The dogs are, as I'm leaving, I'm just like, I'm sorry. I gotta go to work, And Wednesday is a particularly long day for me. So I'm always, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a dog lover. I like dogs, But every now and then, it's just a little bit of worry creeps up in my mind. I hope she's okay. I hope she's not mad at me. And she's not. She'll be happy as hell when I get home. Try to jump up on me, lick my face. Loving dog. That's why I feel bad about it. I would bring her over here, but once Hill Hippie and I were staying at the studio because we were 6 sheets to the wind between us. And so, and we were outside the studio having a cigarette, and this we saw this rabbit come running across the yard, and this owl came out of the sky. Got the rabbit and just started tearing into it right there. And I was like, so I don't think I'm going to bring this little tiny dog here. Madman, do you think there's no owls near your house? And I was like, that's a fair point. But at least, because the studio's back area is like fenced in, it's like I could leave her out there and she'd be all right. But at the same time, more vulnerable to hawks and owls and so forth. But I mean, if I'm at home, because I don't have a fenced in yard, I'll have her on a leash. And so if a owl or a hawk comes down and snatches the dog, I can like maybe pull her away from try to catch her out of the air. Anyway, these are just the thoughts I have. What kind of thoughts do you have? I hope the dog's okay. She's probably fine. Anyway, so hey, we played that Heroes Unlimited game, and a friend of mine, he was like, I don't know why I mentioned Heroes Unlimited, because that's when we met. But he was like, I was talking to him this past week, and it was like, you're playing Sega Genesis games? It's like, let's bring you out of the 90s, man. Let's bring you into the 21st century. I have an old PS3 that I don't play anymore, a bunch of games. Why don't I let you borrow that and say you can play that? So I picked up my friend's PS3. He was kind enough to let me borrow it. And I went home, and I plugged it up and everything. I'm all excited. Oh, boy, you got a bunch of PlayStation 3 games. That's Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum's in here. I'm going to put that in. And I put that in. And it was like 2 hours before I could play the game. It was like 2 hours before I was actually playing the game. And as I tried different games, there was more and more cutscenes that you can't skip. You can't skip them. And I was like, was the learning curve between the PS2 and the PS3 that big a deal that we have all these tutorial cutscenes and stuff like that? I'm following the Joker into this prison for like a half an hour. What's up with this? I'm tired of sitting here and listening to all this claptrap because I'm playing Borderlands 2. There's a bunch of nonsense over again. And boy, I tell you, those claptrap droids, I want to destroy every single one of them. Every single one of them. Are you still getting the audio coming from your computer? Did that go through? Okay. See? Learning curve. It's a learning curve. It's not like a PS3 learning curve, but there's a learning curve for every new software. But I couldn't understand like all these cutscenes. Thankfully, there was one game. It's called Civilization Revolutions that I was able to play. It's like you just put it in, it comes up to the menu, play new game. It's like, oh, thank God. And then the tutorial guy will come up and tell you blah 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 blah. It's like, this is how you do stuff. It's like, I don't need to know that. I'll figure it out on my own. I don't know. It just seems like in the PS2 days, PS1 days, like you put the game in and then boom, you can immediately get the gameplay. You don't have to sit there and watch some half-baked script to this background of this strange land you're on and so forth. It just, I don't know. I guess maybe like once I get through all the cutscenes, because when I first got, I started play a little bit. And it's like, Jesus, cutscene was so long. I lost interest in this game. So I popped the game out, put in another game, put in Borderlands 2 or something like that. Oh, another long cutscene. Oh, explaining everything. It's like the beginning of Fallout. The war never changes. It's just like, oh God. But you have to sit there and listen to all this. I don't know. It just it made me mad. I was worried that when I get the PS3, I wouldn't be able to write anything. But it turns out, it's actually a subject I could write upon itself. Because I was like, oh my God, now I don't want to play any of these games. I'm pissed off at this thing. And I'll tell you one thing, another game I got was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And I tried to play that a little bit, but nobody wants to play with me. I guess because there's downloadable maps probably that, that everyone else has already that I don't, because it's such an old game. And so I make a new guy. I got the FNG tag. Hopefully you know what that means. The FNG tag. And I try to join a game, and then there's just a bunch of guys with the little private logo and the FNG tag. Anybody with level 5 or higher, they're like leaving the lobby all the time. Nobody wants to play with me because I don't have all the maps. I'm pretty sure that's the reason. So, I don't know. It's still old, you know what I mean? The PS5 is out. But hey, I'm in the 21st century. So, PlayStation 3. All right. So I watched some really epically bad movies this past weekend. So I'm going to share. I'm going to share. I suffered, so now I'm going to make you suffer. All right. So the first movie I'm talking about was called Suburbicon. It's a 2017 movie. It's having Matt Damon, Julianne Moore. She played 2 roles in there. And it's set in 1947. By the way, like George Clooney was like a producer or maybe a writer on this, and boy, he should really stick to acting, and he doesn't even do that well. Was that making a noise? The fan?
I couldn't. I thought I was hearing noise from somewhere. I didn't realize.
That's fine. I could be hot for 45 minutes. That's all right. All right, so it gets hot in the studio. There's lots of lights, people. All right. So I watched this movie, Suburbicon. It's set in 1947, and it's a story about Matt Damon plays this guy. He's like an average businessman. I could forget what business he was in. And Julianne Moore played both his wife and the sister-in-law. What you see on the screen is his sister-in-law. And what happened was his wife was in a wheelchair. She was in a car accident. Apparently he was driving when she was in the car accident, and she was paralyzed. But Julianne Moore is their twin sister who is staying with them. And then the story kind of begins. The story begins with this weird racist subplot that has nothing to do with anything in the entire movie. Anyway, we'll come back to that. We'll bookend with that. And but it kind of begins with this family. It includes Matt Damon, his wife in the wheelchair, and her sister, Julianne Moore, in 2 different roles, and the kid. And these 2 men break into their house, quote unquote, break into their house, tie them all up at the kitchen table, and then chloroform them all. The kid wakes up in the hospital, and they say, "We got bad news about your mom. There were complications with the chloroform, and she passed away." So they bury his mother, and all of a sudden, sort of fishy stuff's going on with Matt Damon and this his aunt. Yeah. What I'm getting at is that this is the most obvious plot I have ever seen in a movie. Ever. The plot is so obvious, it pissed me off. All right? Now, the scene that you're seeing right there on the screen, that scene comes from when a bunch of guys were rounded up. They thought they may be involved in this kidnapping and, maybe manslaughter, murder, anyway. And they were called in to identify them. So they go and have this lineup right here, and the sister-in-law and Matt Damon, they're sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." And the 2 guys that did it are in that lineup. And they said, "Nope, that's not them. We don't see them." But the boy sneaks into this room where they're trying to identify these suspects, and he spots them. He knows that's who they are. And he eventually has this private conversation with his father. It's like, "Those guys were in there. Why didn't you tell the cops that they were there?" And Matt Damon's trying to explain to his kid, you don't know. Knowing people's like a different thing. He just obfuscates his way out of it with his son. He thinks he can outsmart his son. But his son, even kids, they know the truth in some ways. You can't lie to them in some respects and expect them to believe it. Anyway, so all this fishy stuff is happening and stuff like that. So they're waiting on this insurance money on the death of his wife. And so, of course, the insurance investigator comes and checks it out and discovers them, and, chaos unravels. And then, interspersed throughout this movie, you get this tale of this family that lives across the street. All right? This family across the street is a black family, and a bunch of people in the community are all riled up. And this is all happening simultaneously. You'll cut from this one plot to this racism plot, where this community is a bunch of white people, and they're all, it's like, "We're not going to have, integrated people." And there's clips of people talking on the radio, so "We don't want integration," and blah, 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 blah. And eventually, as the crescendo of the movie, of this plot increases, the crescendo of what's happening at the black family's house, where it's a bunch of white people come to their houses, throwing stuff on their lawn. It's a caricature. I don't even think in the 40s it was like that. It's a caricature of what it's really like. And it had nothing to do with the plot with Matt Damon and Julianne Moore. It had nothing to do with this insurance scam, this murder and insurance scam story, which is the sole driver of the plot. All right. The racism story that was interjected was only interjected because the 2 young boys of both families were friends, and so they'd play baseball together. All right. And so it's such a predictable plot. And then you got this unnecessary racism story wedged in. It's like, oh, well, we can't tell a story about 1947 without mentioning how awful it was for black people. You know, everyone knows that. But you know what? If the movie was never about that, it wasn't Mississippi Burning. All right. It was called Suburbicon. It's about these crimes suburban people do. You know? And I guess that's the only thing that it's because that what happened to that black family was because it happened in suburbia is why it got included in the movie. And it just irritated the shit out of me. This whole movie it was predictable. It was even listed under comedy. And there's one scene that I thought was a little funny. Maybe two, but it was listed under comedy. And I'm like, it's not a comedy. I don't know what I'd call it. Drama? A drama that wishes it was a comedy, maybe? It was awful. It was awful. Do not recommend. Suburbicon 2017. 1 of 13 stars. Stick to acting, George Clooney, and you're not even good at that. Name one movie where George Clooney played a character other than George Clooney. Why is that guy famous? I don't understand. I have more dynamic range in one show, dynamic emotional range in one show than George Clooney has ever acted. Anyway, don't watch it. I watch these movies to tell you it's like I may review a movie and give it like 13 stars or something, and you'll say, well, you know, it's not my genre. I don't really like sci-fi or something like that. It's like, I'm not going to watch that. But if I tell you 1 star, don't watch it, because it is awful. Anyway, let's talk about this next movie. Holy cow. 23 minutes in. Past the hour, I should say. So this next movie is called Sunshine. I'm watching. This was from 2007. Now look, it's a sci-fi. I like that. I like sci-fi movies. And usually if a sci-fi movie will get higher star ratings just based upon the fact that it's sci-fi. Because, you know, I like, you know, activating my imagination and let my imagination run wild. Unfortunately, this movie pissed me off so much, so much that my imagination did not activate, and instead I just got incredibly critical and angry and angrier and angrier and angrier. So let me just start off by saying it's a star-studded cast. You got Cillian Murphy, you got Rose Byrne, you got Chris Evans, Cliff Curtis. You may not know the name, but if you saw his face, oh yeah, I know that guy. He's that guy in that movie. He was like, yes, that's the guy, Cliff Curtis. Excuse me, I said Cliff Clavin. Anyway. From the guy from Cheers? I was like, no. Anyway, it's a star-studded cast, but it's a terribly boring movie. All right, and so what I picked up from the plot, or I should say what I remember from the plot, is that our sun is dying, and so the human race shoots a giant mushroom at the sun, and the idea is to cause an explosion inside the sun to generate, to create a new star inside of our star to save our planet. Forget the fact that, this is not how our star will die. It's very, very unlikely a star will die in this way. Our star will die before, it'll take millions, probably billions of years for it to die. But first it's going to go red giant, and it's going to swallow up Earth and Mars, and it'll go out all the way to the asteroid belt probably. And then the gas giants probably get blown off, Europa becomes an ocean planet, and hopefully we have space stations around Europa by that point. So, yeah.
One can dream.
Yeah, one could dream. That's what I'm talking about activating my imagination. All right? But I say it's that they shoot a giant mushroom, but if you look at that, is there a way you could put that layer under me? Or behind me? Yeah, if you see if you can do it. But you see that mushroom that's up there above everyone's heads in that picture? That's their spaceship. It looks like a giant mushroom. And so this is the second ship humanity has shot to the sun to attempt to reignite the star to save everybody. But there's another ship, the first mission, who apparently crash landed on Mercury. And there was one scene. Yeah, you see the mushroom right there above my head. There was one scene where it had what's it called, a transit of Mercury, where they're getting close to the sun and they saw a transit of Mercury. And that's kind of cool for like space traveler perspective to imagine getting that close to Mercury. That would be cool. Anyway, but there's apparently the crash landed on Mercury. The first mission crash landed on Mercury. They decided to go like get their payload too, to like, you know, maybe give them a better chance of reigniting the star, and it kind of unravels, and I don't care anymore because I just kept getting more and more and more and more angry. All right. It's just because I remember thinking that the ship looks like a mushroom because I don't know how much psilocybin you have to take to want to sit there and stare at the sun at 2% for fun. Because that's what the people in this movie were doing. They would like, there was this one scene where I think it was Cliff Curtis who was looking at the sun at 2% because it filtered 98% out. You know, he's looking at 2%, and he goes, "Can you put it up to 5%?" And it's like, and the computer's like, "No, if I put it up to 5%, you'll be blind forever." So it's like, how high can I see it at? He's like 3.1%. Okay, but only for like 10 seconds or something. It's like, okay, hit me with it. And how many mushrooms do you have to eat to think that that's fun? I don't know. It's just, didn't they have any video games on the spaceship? How stripped down of this ship was this ship? Anyway, you know. And the biggest thing that pissed me off about this movie, it's a clearly a blatant ripoff of Alien, an actually good sci-fi movie, Alien. All right, except that there's no alien in this movie. All righty, you look at a scene, you'll watch a scene, and you'll be like, "Why is this familiar?" Is it the table's lit up? The table's lit up. Why? They're all sitting around eating. The table's lit up. Why? Alien. That's where I've seen it. It's completely derivative. It's a ridiculous plot. And it made me so angry because, like, what the hell are these people doing? Sunshine, 2007 movie. 1 of 13 stars. Who the hell finances a movie like this? Who the hell reads a script and says, "Oh, this story is in no way incomplete or derivative. Let's throw money at this"? Has Hollywood been out of ideas since 2007? How far back do I got to look? I'm scared of that idea. How far back have they been out of ideas? Sunshine, 1 of 13 stars. Don't watch it. All right, I got one more thing to talk about before we get into the news. I was wondering why I've never seen a ghost. And I was trying to think of reasons why. So I think I may have a hypothesis. This hypothesis is if you were a ghost, wouldn't you want to like haunt attractive people? Say for example, you die, and you're like me, and you're just like, well, if I got to haunt somebody, I'm going to haunt Scarlett Johansson. I'm going to haunt Natalie Portman. I could come up with a big list of people I'd rather haunt than just some random Joe Schmo with 140 subscribers on YouTube. So why would a ghost be interested in me? You know, and the whole point is like also not only like obviously if you're a ghost you no longer have any like sexual function or even perhaps even feeling, but at the same time humans appreciate beauty. Humans, you know, on a level that's not just sexual. You know what I mean? So even if you're dead and you have to be dead for all eternity, wouldn't you be hanging around the hottest people, or perhaps even the most interesting people? Like imagine haunting Elon Musk. You know, haunt Elon Musk and see like all the crazy stuff he's doing. Follow him around in his life. He's like, oh, this guy's cool. He does a lot of interesting stuff. You know, so I guess that's why, you know, ghosts don't haunt me. It's because they're like, ugh. If they do, they like come by, they look in my window or whatever, like, this guy's boring. What's he doing? He's just playing Borderlands 2. Listening to Gavin McInnes. Boring. What's he doing? Typing into his keyboard? What? Who does that? I'm going to go find somebody who's bungee jumping or hang gliding. Haunt them. Anyway, just my theory. I could be wrong. Alrighty. 1:30. Let's go ahead and get into the bad news worth knowing. I'm trying to bring some levity in the show. A lot of bad news this past week. I remember last week I said, I complained about a slow news week, and I want to go back in time. I want to go back in time 1 week where it was a slow news week and appreciate it for what it was. You know, because a busy news week means death, murder, and all the most disgusting things that humans are capable of. And that's what we've been seeing in Israel. That's me. Don't worry, the audio doesn't come in. Free commercial. All right, so here's the headline. Israel responds to Hezbollah attack from Lebanon, deploying tens of thousands to the northern border. So that's just a headline. So Hezbollah is getting in on this, and this is the news that's been going on over this past weekend since the Sabbath. You know, I guess, you know, these inbred Muslims are smart enough to know it's like, well, you know, Jews, they're not allowed to touch their cell phones, not allowed to read newspapers, open a book. You know, well, I guess they can open books. How can they get newspapers though? I don't know. But you know, they're going to be, you know, busy worshiping, you know, celebrating the Sabbath. So we'll attack then. And that's the way these people, these animals think. All right. So first, Hamas started this. It was a bunch of Hamas people who started like going into Israel locations. What are they called? Kibbutzim. Going there and like doing the most awful things you can imagine humans doing to each other. Murder, rape, killing, like freaking children, burning people, cutting off heads. All right. So, but Hezbollah is in Lebanon. They're like north of Israel, and Hamas is like in Israel proper, in like Gaza and so forth, and it's in the south as well. So Hamas and Hezbollah apparently are both in this now, and it's all clearly backed by Iran, and it has filled me with so much rage. I've been wrestling with my wrath these past few days, you know, just because I want to get all Punisher about it. I think thoughts like, you know, I think we should kill every single Muslim on earth, burn every Quran, and delete every copy of the Quran that's ever been digitized. That's how angry I get. All right, that's why I shouldn't be a cop. That's why I shouldn't be a political leader. All right, it's because I get all Punisher. You know, it's like somebody with glasses pisses me off. Well, let's put this in context. All right, if somebody with glasses, and I didn't wear glasses. All right, say if somebody with glasses raped my sister and murdered her, I would want. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense that just because he has glasses doesn't mean he's going to do that. But only if people. I'm losing my metaphor here. Anyway, I get real angry about this stuff. All right, and it's just frustrating to me to no end that.
I guess what I'm really trying to say is use your damn turn signals.
Use your signals. Use your turn signals. What I'm trying to say, all right, is I've been terribly frustrated with how uninformed people are on this subject. And I started reading about this subject after the USS Cole, because I was in the Navy when the USS Cole happened, and I was like, oh, who are these assholes that are trying to kill us? So I did a little research, and it's like, oh man, this is a this is a convoluted mess. I got to do a lot of reading to try to understand what's the difference between Sunni and Shia. You know, it's like, why are the Muslims angry with the Jews? Let me do some reading. It's like, all right, let's hear. Start at Exodus, or is it Genesis? Start at Genesis. Start in Genesis, and that's the beginning of where this all started. All right, it's between Ishmael and Isaac, basically. You know what I mean? And it just irritates me. It's like, because people are like, you know, it's like, hey, you got to think about the Palestinians too. And it's like, you know, the Palestinians, Hamas and Hezbollah specifically, those people every single day want to kill Jews. Even when they pretend to negotiate, they're like, let's see if we can get some money from them. Then we'll go back to killing them. That's how they think. They think it's their duty to destroy Jews. And you, by the way. And you. Okay? If you do not practice their particular brand, their particular flavor of Islam, they want to kill you too. They want to behead and rape you too. How are people not getting this? And it just irritates me when I see Americans, Westerners, out there saying, oh, you got to think about the Palestinians. You screw those inbred people. Screw them. You can marry your first cousin in Islam, just so you know. Screw them. They're starting this. They've been starting this since the beginning of time. The Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps was started because of people like that. The Crusade started because of people like that. Because people like that were jumping pilgrims going to Jerusalem, robbing them, raping them, killing them, beheading them. They've been doing it for thousands of years. How could you even come down on the side of Hamas or Hezbollah or Palestine? You don't have to be as extreme as me and say, let's kill them all. But if you have any sense, you would agree with me. We should kill them all. Because they are monstrous. They are monstrous. Israel has been, extremely tolerant, even in the aftermath of this. They're warning people in the Gaza and other places where the Palestinians are, warning them, it was like, we are going to strike. And the reason that they warn those civilians is because they have the forethought to understand that not everybody in Gaza is part of Hamas. Some are just the peasants that are underlings of the Hamas, who oppresses them. Plus, they know that Hamas and Hezbollah and all these Islamists, radical Islamists, they hide in places like hospitals, in schools, so that when Israel or anybody else strikes them, they could pull out dead bodies of their own children and say, see the monstrous thing the Jews do. See the monstrous things that Americans have done. And they were doing this all, USS Cole, 9/11. I've been mad about this for a very long time, all right? And it just irritates me. How can you even think that Israel is the bad guy in this? How is that even possible? It just shows that you have no understanding about how the world works. No idea about that every single conflict in human history is based upon an alternative viewpoint of life itself. The way you look at life itself. These radical Islamists, they go out there and they think that they're allowed to break every law known to man if they're in a holy war. And they've been in a holy war since Genesis. All right? So they're allowed to do drugs, they're allowed to eat bacon, they're allowed to have gay sex, they're allowed to have regular sex. They hate the Jews so much, but they're allowed to put their dicks into them when they're raping them. What's up with that? Anyway, I'm getting pretty heated on this. Anyway, how dare you support Palestine? Come to the good side. Come to the side of truth and justice. Anyway, I'm not saying I have any solutions. All I have is my anchor. All right, let's go on to the next story. Let's lighten it up. Let's lighten it up through these next stories. Maybe leave in a positive note. I've been listening to a lot of Ben Shapiro lately. But, oops. Something going on here. So, let's see. Nearly naked prostitutes prowl the streets in broad daylight, but California law ties police hands. You got to work on better headlines. Emma Colton. All right, women wearing only, quote, G-strings while bending over in front of traffic has become an increasingly common sight in National City, California, as prostitution issues spiral after the implementation of a controversial state law, the city's mayor told Fox News Digital. Prostitutes read the news? Oh, we can start wearing G-strings and bending over in traffic now. Oh, that's good. There's night courses at law school, I guess. They're waving to people on the freeway, or just to be honest with you, they're bending over for the freeway. I don't know how else to put it. They're showing their wares. National City Mayor Ron Morrison told Fox News Digital in an interview this month. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed Senate Bill 357 on July 2022, which repealed the previous law that banned loitering with the intent to engage in prostitution. The law took effect in January this year, with Morrison arguing at the moment of Newsom's pen touched the bill. Pimps in the state knew that they could expand their prostitution ventures with little repercussions from law enforcement. Quote, the moment it was signed by the governor, boom, everyone knew the rules were out the window, Morrison told Fox News Digital. These were out in the street, and most of them were wearing less than what you would consider a scanty negligee. They're just flaunting it in everyone's face. So a lot of people are screaming, hey, can't you get them on indecent exposure? And the problem is the way our laws are read in the state, the definition of indecent exposure is as long as the genitals are covered. Anything else is fair game out in public. Wow. National City is a diverse working class city, roughly 60,000 residents just outside of San Diego on the Bay. Prostitution issues are no stranger to the city, the mayor explaining, there's a naval base there. The mayor explaining, as the urban area, sex work has been known to cross the San Diego city border, but never at the rate he's currently seeing. Very much beyond brazen, Morrison said, of what he's seeing on the streets. All right, look, I know prostitution is one of those, what they call like a victimless crime, I suppose. A harmless vice. And that may be, but, I don't want the harmless vices out in front and public for everybody to see. Kids, riding cars like, Mommy, what's that lady wearing? I can't tell, honey. I can't even see it. You got any binoculars? I can't see what she's wearing. And harmless vices are okay in private. Like, for example, like marijuana being legalized all over this country. And, it's one of those harmless vices, I think. And so it's, but at the same time, everywhere you go, everything smells like weed. Everywhere. You smell weed everywhere. I know it used to be a meme, is like where some guy, when you randomly smell weed in public, It was a meme at one point. Now it's everywhere. And so you get pulled over by cops, and you're like, cops like, I smell weed. And it's like, it's probably coming from the apartments over there. Or the apartments over there. Or the store over there. I do think it's a harmless vice, but I don't want to smell it everywhere I go. I know I'm a smoker. I know I smoke cigarettes, and I'm like, why can't I smoke in this restaurant anymore? I made a fuss back in the day, but at the same time, I can respect other people. It's like, I don't want to eat my steak smelling your cigarette smoke. I can understand and appreciate that, so I will go outside for other people. I get it. And it's the same thing for me in restaurants. It's like, when I'm eating my steak, I don't want to necessarily smell weed. I want to be high as fuck. Kidding. So I can enjoy that steak. Is a steak better on high? On weed? Is it better on high? No, it's well burnt. It's well done. It's burnt, you dude. I saw a steak meme. It's like a well done meme. It's like, how do you argue with people who eat their steak like this well done? It's like, you can't. They're still chewing. It's a clever one. All right, let's go to this next story. See how quickly I diffuse my anger. That's what you get. ADD people. And it's like, they don't stay angry long. All right, let's talk about this interesting case. Non-binary NYU student Bar Association president loses job offer after defending Hamas terror attack on Jews. Should I read that again? Non-binary NYU student Bar Association president loses job after defending Hamas terror attack on Jews. All right, let's read the lead paragraphs here. Pro-LGBTQ international law firm has rescinded its job offer to the president of the New York University Student Bar Association, who issued a statement defending Hamas's attack on Jews. NYU law school student bar association president Rhino Workman, who reportedly identifies as a non-binary and uses they/them pronouns, issued a statement disseminated through the group's student newsletter declaring unwavering and absolute solidarity with Palestinians in their resistance against the oppression towards liberation and self-determination. Afterwards, Winston & Strawn LLP announced Tuesday that it learned its former summer associate, quote, published certain inflammatory comments regarding Hamas's recent terrorist attack on Israel and distributed it to the NYU Student Bar Association. Ah, there it is. Distributed it to the NYU Student Bar Association. These comments are profoundly in conflict with Winston & Strawn's values as a firm. According to the firm, it has rescinded its law students' offer of employment, they said. And as communicated yesterday to all Winston personnel, we remain outraged and deeply saddened by the violent attack on Israel. Okay. All right. So, I think that they're both wrong in this. I think that this non-binary person is wrong because they think they're non-binary. It's like there's no such thing. No such thing as non-binary in a binary system. It's like, I'm hexadecimal. No. So, I think that they're wrong by supporting Palestine. I think they're wrong in that. I also think that this law firm is wrong for rescinding a job offer to someone who has an opinion. I will say that the line, they said that they distributed it, these inflammatory comments, to the NYU Student Bar Association, which is their property, and they don't want that on their stuff, so I can understand why they did that, you know. But I don't think that your job should, I don't think that your employer should be looking in your social media and firing you over something you post on social media, because something similar happened to me. Back when I had work in a career and trying to make a career for myself, it was back when Obama was running, and I posted about on this certain website, it shall remain nameless, I had a discussion board, and I posted about there, you know, because people talk about political things. And I was talking about how, you know, Obama's the only color I care about when it comes to Obama is blue. His blue Democrat ass. That's the only thing people are like, you hate him because he's black. No, I hate him because he's blue. He's a crazy liberal who thinks nobody should have guns. All right. And so I frequently ranted about how I don't like Obama. And so my Democrat employers like, we've been reading what you've been saying about Obama. And I'm like, so? And they're like, well, you know, we're going to take it into consideration. We may counsel you on this. It's like, what? You're going to counsel me on my opinion? Well, you know, you shouldn't be, you know, posting that. And it's like, look, dude, you have no business making your hiring and firing practices over something I say on the internet. All right. If I was posting it on their server, on their website, different story. Absolutely you have every right to fire me, which is what happened in this case. But unfortunately, back then, they couldn't fire me over that because I would have sued the shit out of them for that. So they found another reason to do it. Won't get into that. Didn't kiss the right ass, basically. All right, so let's talk about this one quickly. Oh, we got to move a little faster here. All right, so black pastor formerly protested the cops organized massive nationwide pro-police event by thinking evolved. So a reverend who had previously led protests against police organized mass pro-law enforcement multi-city rallies over the weekend and spoke to Fox News Digital about why the demonization of police nationwide must end in order to secure better outcomes for everyone regardless of race. Quote, law enforcement officers have been, rightly or wrongly, demonized and demoralized and really disconnected from their communities in the last 3 or 4 years in a way that has been detrimental, that has had a detrimental effect on crime and violence, on law enforcement as a profession, and by extension on communities. Reverend Markle Hutchins, the organizer of the National Faith and Blue Weekend, told Fox News Digital this week. Over the weekend, Hutchins flew to several cities across the country, engaging with law enforcement officials in coordination with thousands of events nationwide for Faith and Blue Weekend, highlighting the need for more police officers, stronger communication between police communities, and an end to the stigmatization of the police force. As cities across the country grapple with crippling police shortages in the wake of the defund movement, including Washington, D.C., where crime has been surging and the police force is short about 400 officers, Hutchins told Fox News Digital that he spoke with over the weekend and resoundingly opposed to police defunding. Quote, the truth is that more than 70% of African Americans and Hispanics and more than 8% of white Americans, according to recent polling, want the same or more law enforcement, Hutchins said. That is a narrative that has not been heard enough, that people actually want police, and everyone wants to be policed with fairness and equity, and people want to be treated fairly by law enforcement. That is crystal clear. Most people understand that most police officers go to work and do a good job every single day, so this underlying message that we heard too much in the media, that somehow American people are not supportive of law enforcement, just isn't true. And that is demonstrated in the thousands of activities that happened over the course of the Faith and Blue Weekend. So good for you, Pastor. Good for you. You know, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay. You know, I know that there's some pundits, some people who do similar work to what I do here. You know, they may say, ha ha, you know, it's like, oh, you're always an idiot. And it's like, we shouldn't do that. You know, let them feel safe to come to the side of truth and justice and hopefully one day peace, you know, and tolerance, you know, understanding. Let them come on up. Let them join us. We need to be welcoming. If you're on the side of truth, if you're on the side of justice, you know, you're on the side of God, if you ask me. You should welcome them. It's like, absolutely, it's okay to change your mind. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind lots of times. I changed my mind today. I changed my mind twice right before the show. I was like, well, I bet EK has one of those delicious Mountain Dew. What are they called? Voodoos? Voodoos. I bet he's got one of those in the fridge. I'm going to have one. No. Last time I had one, I was up till 4 a.m. grinding my teeth. Cracked out on the caffeine. So, no, I changed my mind. And then I changed my mind again. So, I'm going to have, nah, we caffeinated before the show. Don't want to be over caffeinated before the show. Boom, changed my mind twice today. It's okay to change your mind and come on over to the side of truth. Come on over to the side of justice. You're welcome with us. Oh, the world is not my own. I'm just a passing through. Come on up to the house. All right, lighter stories before we get out of here. 9 minutes left. California-based Procrastination Book Club finally finishes its first tome after 28 years. Maybe you can get two or three books in a lifetime in this club. What if you're the guy who reads it the first week?
Right. Done.
Yeah.
Wait for the rest of the team to catch up.
You wait for everybody else. I guess we just need to read the headline. We don't really. Where is this? Let's find out where it is. All right. Okay. Yeah, we definitely want to talk about the book, though. Procrastinating Book Club finally finished its first tome after nearly 30 years. The bookworms. I don't know if you're a bookworm if it takes you 28 years to read Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. And that was their first selection. This classic is notoriously difficult to read due to its experimental style of language. All right, blah, 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 blah. Where is this? Where did this happen? Where is this club? It may be just like an internet club. California, based in California. The Procrastination Book Club, based in California. Yeah, so what if you're the guy who read it like in the first week? Would you have to read it again 28 years later? Oh, I forgot what the hell was in it. I've read so many books since then. It's just the guy is. I'll join all the book clubs and the procrastination. It's like, yeah, we'll meet again on this in I don't know, 28 years. All right. Hope you don't have to pay dues the whole time. I guess the point is that that's my kind of book club. You shouldn't like rush yourself. I find that I don't know if you've been a part of a book club. There's some people, some book clubs would be like, we'll read this week and what? The whole book this week? Don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. Especially when it comes to something you're enjoying. It's okay to spend a few years reading a book, especially if you need to learn to read first. But I mean, it's okay. Take your time with your entertainment. It's when you're reading a book with somebody else in a book club, it's not a race. You know what I mean? It's like you're the kid who's like the teacher is like halfway through the class is like, okay, I need to do some paperwork. So you guys read chapter 4 and you're going to have a quiz on chapter 4 tomorrow. One guy read the book. Finish chapter 4, finish before all of you. Ha ha, I'm smarter. Some people will do that and be like, I don't care if I read it fast than you. And it's like, enjoy yourself. This is for enjoyment. I understand if it's for class assignment. That's what I don't like about it. Anyway. My kind of book club. Finnegan's Wake apparently has like a experimental style of language. I'm not familiar with this book. I haven't read it. But I do know when I read Anthony Burgess's Clockwork Orange. Wow. That took me a while to get through. Because I would keep a notepad out when I was reading it, and I'd write words down. It was like yarbles. And I'd write down what I think it is in the context. And then when I'd run across yarbles again, it's like, yes, I definitely think it means testicles. Horror show. I think that means awesome because it sounds like horror show or something like that. It's a Russian word meaning good. Horror show. And so I had this there's like 2 pages on a notebook filled with these weird words. And now I can finally understand what somebody says is like, come and get one in the yarbles if you have any yarbles, you eunuch jelly thou. What you got back home, little sister, to spin your fuzzy wobbles on? I bet you got pitiful portable picnic players. Come with Uncle and hear all proper. Hear the angel cornets and devil trombones. You are invited. See, it doesn't make any sense if you don't know what's context. But it's like those people who learn how to speak. What's that? Cimmerian. what's it, the Elvish? Read Lord of the Rings. You know. Anyway, book clubs. They still exist, apparently. All right, here's a funny story. Last story before we're out of here. All right, so suspect rips off vintage store but overlooks glaring issue with what they took. Thieves in Nebraska managed to swipe thousands of dollars in merchandise from a vintage clothing store this summer, but police recently revealed they made off mostly with a bunch of shoes, only for left feet. Hey, look, some people just can't dance. All right, the Lincoln Police Department responded to a store exclusive hype in Lincoln on August 18th at 6:38 a.m. when a neighbor saw one of the store's windows had been shattered and contacted police along with store owners. A police statement report provided to Fox News Digital stated. Lincoln Crime Stoppers reported that on its website that a VW Atlas was seen at in security footage pulling up to the location about 4 a.m. and 3 suspects exited the vehicle. They tried to enter the store by pulling on a strap at the shop's front door, but the method failed and the suspects reportedly turned their attention to breaking the window to get in. Upon arrival at the store along O Street, police determined that the suspects stole roughly $20,000 in merchandise, including clothing and shoes. It's a vintage store, so it's probably only worth about $500. Let's be honest. It was revealed last week that the suspects mostly stole single shoes for left feet. They then broke into the building, through a window, and stole a bunch of left shoes. You heard that right. Single shoes. Lincoln Crime Stoppers said on the matter. The right shoes were kept in another room of the building. I wonder how many times the shoes get shoplifted.
They know what's up.
Yeah, they know what's up. Police are still searching for the 3 suspects and asking for members of the public to speak with the Lincoln Police Department or contact Crime Stoppers. Similar crime unfolded in central Peru earlier this year. 3 suspects stole more than 200 sneakers from a shoe store, merchandise valued at roughly $13,000, but the suspects only got away with shoes for right feet. So this may be a common practice among shoe stores now. Thieves reportedly used a tricycle to escape that scene. Police said. I'm not sure why this paragraph is included in this news story. Just because of the similarity, I suppose. A tricycle. Anyway. That sounds like a more interesting news story. Let's talk about it. Anyway. Hey. What do they say? What does Batman say? It's like criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot. I agree. They're also very, very, very stupid, generally. Anyway. This is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I also have Cash App. You can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. Thanks for getting that up for me, EK. Follow me on social media at Donaldsaw on Twitter. That's how it's pronounced. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook and at SLRoberts13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download if you are a reader. Down in the description, you'll find links to my digital books on Amazon, or you can just search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's. Yeah, this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.